Good morning and welcome to the Sports Debate Podcast. I am your host, BA, along with James Martin and Jack Hurst. I hope everybody is doing fine out there in podcast land. We are going to get right to our debates. The first question is going to be, which NBA player is under the most pressure entering the playoffs? Go ahead there, James. Let you have that one.
Okay, so there's plenty of players to choose from with this because right now you can look and see that there's like people like such as LeBron, even though I know Jack's going to say that LeBron is not under any pressure. He's done a lot of great things in his career, but the pressure is applied to himself, because he's still chasing goals supposedly, where he's trying to maybe take a last ditch effort to try to capture one last championship in this last uh, you know run, and it doesn't look like it's going to happen. But this is not the guy I'm choosing. The guy I'm choosing is a guy who has never won a championship, but has had great opportunities. I mean, he's had an illustrious career, and he's still playing right now, of course. And that's none other than James Harden. James Harden has been everywhere. James Harden was a number three overall draft pick in 2009, I believe. 2009, and he was the sixth man of the year when OKC went to the championship in 2012. Yeah, obviously they didn't stand a chance against the Heatles with LeBron James, Chris Bosh, and Dwayne Wade. Got traded after that, went to Houston, was unleashed. Probably had his, good morning, Richard, had his greatest scoring uh, uh, average with 36 points. And he's constantly been a triple double waiting to happen. And he got an MVP in 2018, but he's had a lot of falters, man. If you look at whether it was with Houston, it was with the Clippers, it was with the 76ers, the Nets. He's been on teams where, either you had a big three or you were the main option, you were the second option. But he's been a guy that's had been in the playoffs where he's faltered, meaning he's what they I don't want to put the word choke on him because I don't like putting that label on folks, but he's had that label placed on him for moments that he's had in the playoffs where he's had 40 games in the playoffs, believe it or not, where he's had more turnovers than he's had points. And in elimination games, he's lost a lot of elimination games where he's had like uh, lackluster efforts where he's had like in 2017 versus the Spurs, he had 9 points. In an elimination game, he had 13 points. I mean, and in 6 and 7, he had 13 and he had 9 points. Against the Golden State Warriors, he faltered. And this is a guy that's a six-time All NBA, first team All NBA. Like I said, an MVP. He's there with Donovan Mitchell in Cleveland and Jared Allen. I think they have an opportunity to do some things in the East, but to me, as where his career is right now, he's under the most pressure because he's 36 and there's not much time left for him to really be like a critical player in an offense. Because again, for a guy that's produced that much offense, he has nothing really to show for it. He's only been to one championship, like as I mentioned before, and they maybe been to a couple of like semis and Western Conference final, but against the Spurs. It means that was a semi as well. And I don't know. I just don't. I think he's under the most pressure to me right now to try to get something done before his career ends.
I mean, it's a good choice. I'm not going to knock your choice, but by now we're resigned to James Harden in the playoffs that they're not quite going to get it done. And the Cavaliers aren't expected to win an NBA championship. They're considered a bit of a long shot, even though realistically they do have a chance, to come out of the East. But we're kind of used to it with Harden, him not winning it. So let's say the Cavaliers get beaten in the Eastern Conference Finals in 7 games and he plays well. we're not going to look at it, oh, Harden failed again, because he has Donovan Mitchell on his team. So we're going to look at Mitchell the same way. I called an audible. I can't believe I actually called it when I heard you talking about a minute or two ago. And I actually changed my pick. It was going to be Anthony Edwards, because if he's ever going to be a breakout star, when's it going to happen? If it doesn't happen now, when is it going to happen? But the guy I'm actually saying is going to be under the most pressure, even though he's won one before, is Jokic with Denver. And the reason why, he's really got to carry the team. He's got to play the series of his life, or game after game, which he's capable of doing, for Denver to win an NBA championship. And Denver's capable of winning an NBA championship. Didn't they play OKC yesterday and blow them out, if I'm not mistaken?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't look at I didn't see the box score this morning, but I venture to guess he had a really big game. And I guess that was a statement game for Denver. And Jokic is going to have to pressure on him this series. I know he's won one before, but he's not content with winning just one. He wants a little more of a legacy than that. And you get the feeling that the Denver team is relying on him more than the Timberwolves are relying on Anthony Edwards. The Denver Nuggets are relying more on Jokic than the Cleveland Cavaliers on James Harden, because the Cavaliers have some nice pieces around Harden. Mobley, Allen, and of course Mitchell, etc. But Jokic is the man. I know he's got Murray there, but he's the guy who's got to produce big time, major impact. And you could say that about any team. They have one super player that's got to produce big time. But realistically, Jokic has got to do it for Denver more than any other player has to do it for his team, for them to merge. And I'm leaving Wemby out of this because we're giving San Antonio a pass. It's okay if they're a year away. They're playing with house money, San Antonio, even though they're capable of winning the NBA title. It's okay even if they go out in the first round this year and get upset, because we all know their team of the future. This might be Denver's last stand, and it's all on Jokic's shoulders.
I'm going to say a rebuttal just for a second. I hear you, what you're saying, but you're the guy that tells me that you can't have pressure on a person like you just mentioned. Even though you mentioned that he has a championship already, he's won one. He's the 3-time MVP and he's got a championship. So he don't really have a lot of pressure on him unless he's putting it on himself, like I mentioned with LeBron. LeBron's chasing ghosts, but that's why I didn't pick LeBron, because, again, he has an illustrious career. So does this guy. The one thing that, again, if he retired at this moment, and Jokic, you couldn't say anything bad about his legacy, because he got a championship to go with everything that he's accomplished in the league, which is, at his peak, he was the greatest. James Harden, for sure, definitely has failed. I think at mostly. His career is not a failure.
You're right what you're saying, but you're missing the point. For legacy, who's it more important for? Harden or Jokic? I'll agree with you in Harden in that respect. You're correct. But who's under the most pressure to perform and carry their team? And Jokic is under the most pressure. He's got to carry his team. Harden can play so-so, and the Cavaliers could conceivably win it all, because they have other pieces who could step up, even though Denver does to a degree as well. If Jokic doesn't play great, there's no chance of Denver winning it all.
But so you're telling me, though, if Harden, let's just say, more pressure should be on Harden, because if you have a team like this, it's like, look at what his past. He's had big threes and they failed. If you have a team like this, they're actually great defensively in Cleveland, and you still lose, they're going to look at him and say, you're part of the problem, no matter, because everywhere you've gone, this is what has occurred in the biggest moments.
Donovan Mitchell, I'll argue, is more important. He's the A side. Harden's the A- side of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Jokic is the A+ side, and no one's close on that team.
Fair enough.
So just to validate a point, yesterday Denver beat OKC without Murray and without Jokic. So,
and I didn't see the box score. How do you like that?
Oh, neither Jokic didn't
neither
play
played.
either.
They were DNPs.
I mean, let's be fair here. Let's be fair here. I don't know who did all the players play because they won their they clinched their division. I mean, they clinched the West.
Yeah.
So I mean, did OKC even play their main starters?
Let's see. Wiggins played. Yeah, they pretty much sat down too.
Yeah. Okay. It was like a next.
It was bench versus bench basically, or without the star players in
there. You go.
Like
right. There you go.
Yeah. Okay.
So I wouldn't consider that a statement game, but anyway, the player that I would probably pick actually is the guy that you've been talking about intermediately, which is Donovan Mitchell. You got to look at this in 5 seasons in the league. Mitchell was only able to lead the Utah Jazz as far as the second round of the playoffs. He did this on 2 occasions, only to be defeated by Houston and the Clippers. And then he came over to Cleveland, and the second round ceiling appeared to be having to follow him over the last 2 years. They lost their Eastern Conference semifinals against Boston and Indiana. And one of those playoffs was bad because, like last year, because they were a number 1 seed. So and this is a perfect avalanche between him and Harden, because now they're both teams, they're both players that are coming on to teams that have kind of had failed success in the playoffs. And I think really for Donovan Mitchell, it's something that that's some step he needs to hurdle as well. He's just a younger version of James Harden, in my opinion. So that's what I got for Donovan Mitchell. But anyway. All righty. Next question. Were the Chicago Sky correct in trading Angel Reese? We'll go with you on this one, Jack.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings on it. I hate to say that during a debate, because once you have mixed feelings, you could understand the other person's position. But the more I thought of it, the more I thought no. And I realized Angel Reese is a self-centered person. Okay, as a teammate, she trashed her teammates and she individually pointed some things out. And it's easy to say, well, Angel Reese wants to win. She wants to do this. She wants to do that. But are we going to trade every player that complains about their team? Every player, then there's no such thing as, team control with the player. They're all free agents. They can switch teams next week if they want. And it amazes me the way teams give into players. Now, Angel Reese, in fairness to her, in fairness to Angel Reese, she didn't demand a trade. She didn't absolutely demand it, at least not publicly. But she so turned off the organization and her teammates with her remarks and her self-centered attitude. They wanted to move on from her. I can understand, and I'm going to be able to understand James's position, but I feel the Chicago Sky should have held on to, because she is a talent. She's a heck of a good player. If you get beyond everything else, I mean, she grabs rebounds virtually like no one else. Okay, she can score, she can play defense, and eventually you hope to make that team better. And she should be a centerpiece of that team. And, her attitude, I think, would have been kept under control to an extent going forward, because Angel Reese is about Angel Reese and her marketing opportunities. So if she's going to go public and do anything to embarrass her teammates, she's just going to make it a little worse for herself, marketability-wise. Plus, I don't know Angel Reese as a person. Maybe she has a need to be liked by her teammates. so we don't know what goes on really behind the scenes. But we do know this: she was way out of line. The way she pointed to, one of her other teammates, oh, well, maybe she's too old to do this or that. I mean, you don't just do things like that. I mean, so there's more to Angel Reese than just being jealous of Caitlin Clark. She has a side that she'll go at it with other people as well, and maybe even her teammates. But do you trade her? You don't trade her unless the situation becomes so unbearable to keep on the team. And that wasn't the case. The Chicago Sky traded her because basically they don't like her. They don't like her. They wanted to get rid of her because they didn't like having her around anymore. She's very distasteful to have around, they felt. So they traded her for 2 number 1 draft choices. We don't know how those draft choices are going to come out. But I could tell you, they're not going to be as good as Angel Reese. Maybe it'll work out with the draft choices. So I think the Chicago Sky should have held on to Angel Reese, worked with her, had her reach out to teammates, communicate with them, because I feel Angel Reese could have been, in a sense, I don't want to use the word rehabilitated, but she could have been made to understand you get along with your teammates. And one last thing, imagine the Chicago Sky front office had Kobe Bryant and they were in charge of the Lakers. They would have traded Kobe in his prime when he was unbearable when he was with the Lakers, but they kept him and they won 3 NBA titles as a result.
Yeah, but with Kobe, they had a great coach there, and they elected to go with the youth movement. And Kobe and the coach actually they made amends because they were at odds too as well. And so I mean, but in this situation, I don't know what the coach was thinking. I don't know what the culture was, but I mean, as usual, Jack, you ride this fence. You need to start carrying the saddle to your debates because you will sit on the fence and debate both sides, and I can't even get into the mix yet. I haven't even said a word. You're speaking for me. So with that said, I mean, yes, they should definitely they were correct in trading her away. It was just too much. I mean, you don't just come lambaste your organization. You've only been in the organization 2 years, and I'm an Angel Reese fan. From her perspective, I could see, she come from a championship pedigree at LSU. She wanted to win, but you got to give it time. Jordan took a long time to get to where he was, and like one of the posters said something about her shooting. Yes, a lot of the rebounds were from her own misses. I mean, she's missing layups right off the bat. And I love Angel Reese as a player. I think she the 12 rebounds, over 12 rebounds, over 14 points, but they were 23 and 61 with her. And you're not winning, and you got the complaining going on like this against your organization. Those sort of things should be in-house, and probably was in-house, but I don't know. Maybe but this is how the younger generation does. And, they will put things out on social media. They say things out loud, and some of the things this is something that should be inclusive within your organization, within your locker room. Don't put it out there. Letting your team and other fan bases know that you're not having a good time where you are. And so, and I know that they've done this in the past with Elena Del Don in 2017, trading, and Candace Parker let her go after the championship win in Chicago. Sylvia Fowles went on to win 2 championships with the Minnesota Lynx after they traded her away. So the success hasn't been great for them, but they got 2 first-round draft picks. They probably could have got a little more out of the dream if they wanted it. I wouldn't have just given her away for 2, but 2 sounds like there's something they can build upon and get, a couple of, especially depends on where they are. What's Juju? What's the young lady out of USC? What's her name? She might be available to the mission.
But if you don't even know the name, it tells you a lot. This is more about your stats and wins and losses. This is about a brand. Women's basketball needs a brand in the worst way. And when you heard the Chicago Sky, you heard Angel Reese, The public knew they know 2 players in the WNBA. That's all the average sports fan knows: Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. If someone says they want to go to a WNBA game, chances are they know nothing about the WNBA, but they hear, oh, Angel Reese is on that team. I want to see that game. Or Caitlin Clark with Indiana. Those are the 2 games they want to see. And Chicago gave up a brand player. That's the point. It's more than wins and losses. Angel Reese represents a brand. Just like that's why the Chicago Sky should have held on to her. You hold on to a player like that.
I disagree way with that comment, Jack. Winning does mean something, and it
does. But the brand is for the value of a franchise.
You don't have a brand. You don't have a brand if you're focused on one player. It should be focused on the Chicago Sky. It should not be focused on Angel Reese. Okay, so the point of the matter is, if you're not winning with that brand, what's the point? And like James said, they were at 23-64 since they acquired Angel Reese in the draft. She doesn't work well. She didn't work well with the other draft pick that they got in the same year, which was Camila Cardoso. They don't work well together in the offensive set, and of course, there's the whole thing between Reese and the management about the roster. You know, I'm gonna tell you something. It's like this. A lot of I'm a big proponent of this because I see the Lions do it too. If you do not want to be on that team, or if you even complain about a little minute thing on a team, teams are ready to ship you out because you get paid too much anyway. These athletes get paid a whole lot of money. And what these teams are thinking is, hey, if you don't want to be on this team or you complain about your playing time, we'll send you somewhere else. They can pay you the money so you can complain. So, I mean, that's the whole point with this. I think that Chicago did a good job. They got some draft picks out of it. They're just trying to reboost their roster. I mean, hey, I think it was a win-win for both teams. I mean, she went to Atlanta. Brittany Griner is there. They have a pretty formidable lineup in Atlanta. And Atlanta's basically where I'm sorry, Chicago's not really Chicago's more of a grit city. Atlanta's more of the type of city that I think Angel Reese needs to be in because she is the Barbie of the NBA. And I think that's I
will say to correct you on the dream, Brittany Griner, I think she just got a contract. I think she went to a team in Connecticut.
She did?
Yeah, she got like a big $1 million Supermax contract or something like that.
Well, she won't be in
Connecticut.
But the idea that we're
Houston. So.
Guys, but the idea that we're even talking about this is because of Angel Reese. It's not because of the Chicago Sky or the WNBA. Only 2 players, and maybe a third, Brittany Griner, because of a situation in her background. You could maybe add her in as a third one. Those are the only ones we would be talking about normally. I mean, the other top players, we wouldn't even entertain a question on this show about. But because it's Angel Reese, she's a lightning rod, like or not. I mean, I'm not a fan of her. I mean, I respect, like Jordan said about Isaiah, I respect his game. I respect her game, on the court, what she could bring to a team. And she's a heck of a player.
I mean, she's all right. I mean, there's a lot of players in the WNBA that have played well all the time, and they don't get the credit. It's about the social media thing. Do you think? Let me ask you a question. Let me sidetrack this. Do you think Angel Reese would be much of a player before social media? Do you think that she would be just as famous? Because social media basically made Angel Reese.
About anyone. You could.
No. I have to give her credit. She was the dominant force for LSU, and so her being drafted, I thought she, let's just take the social media aspect out of it. She's broke a record for. I mean, whether it's getting her own rebounds or not, she's still getting them. I mean, she's like the Dennis Rodman of the. She's like the Dennis Rodman.
Up a mess on the court.
Yeah, exactly. She's able to
Tries to,
she's
yeah.
at least able to do it, right? She broke a record for uh rebounds in the season. So I mean, yeah, that's something that's nothing to sneeze at there. So that I would say,
I
yeah,
mean,
she
I
would.
understand. I understand that fact. However, Michael Jordan and players that in his era and before that, they played. You heard them based on their playing performance. Do you think even if Angel Reese grabbed the rebounds of her own making, I mean that's something that people would see watching a game, without the social media involved in it, where you got Caitlin Clark, who is actually a pretty good player as well. She's in her own right, grabbing rebounds. I think that if it wasn't for social media, I don't think Angel Reese would be much. I think she'd be a name, but she would be a name among other names in the WNBA. That's what I'm saying. Because you
No,
have
there are some. I
there's some
agree.
very outstanding players in the WNBA that don't nearly get mentioned as much as Angel Reese does. So I'm just saying.
But you got to kind of look at the same thing. I mean, they all have a factor.
Yeah.
Caitlin Clark has a factor. So I would say, because if she wasn't, I'll be honest with you, if Caitlin Clark wasn't white, she wouldn't have that same factor that she has now. So it's everybody has a factor in regards to how they're popular in certain ways. I guarantee you, Caitlin Clark, if she was black.
Media. Well, I think social
Yeah.
media is also blew up Caitlin Clark too. I think what I'm trying to say is before social media became prominent, you actually had to be an excellent player to be at the top of your game. So that would have weeded out Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese as just focuses in the WNBA because there's other women in the WNBA that play extraordinarily better than both of them. So that's what I'm saying. I mean, I understand Jack's point because of the brand, but if your brand isn't winning your games, what's the point? You're paying out millions. You're paying out some. Well, I can't say millions of dollars.
Well, we have to move on to the next question, but I will say this: how's attendance compare? If it means more money for the Chicago Sky having Angel Reese than not, then you keep her. And my feeling is they probably make more money, the organization, with her than without her. Sponsorship, fans in the seats, that's what I'm kind of looking at from that angle. And you don't give that up, that business model up. That's just my opinion. You disagree, Brian. I get it. Yeah, so,
well, I'm just saying, and just one last thing before we move on to the next one. Yeah, that's fine. I understand. Like I said, I understand where you're coming from with that. But at the same time, you're already got a team in a league that's kind of shaky as it is, and then you're not winning, and that's going to get tiring to fans. Be like, oh yeah, we got Angela, but we're not winning anything. So what's the point? And then the fans will stop coming to the games, which are already they're not. There's no big attendance to these games. So now you got a brand name, you're paying, and nobody's coming to see it because you're a losing organization. So what's the point? So it kind of is like it's like a backdraft. So yeah, I get what you're saying though, Jack. So anyway, next question. Are we making too big of a deal over the Mike Vrabel and Diana Rossini photos? Go ahead, James.
I think I spelled when I sent it in Rossini wrong.
You did,
but I went, whatever.
Rossini, it's Rossini. I didn't.
Yeah. No, my spelling. That's on me, not on you.
Well, I copied it, so that's my bad too. So.
And either way, we know who they are. Judging by the photos, we definitely know who they are. Look, no, you're not making a big deal. I mean, I get it. There's paparazzi. There's the MCU universe. There's AI. None of this looks like any of that. This looks like a couple of people who are married and not having fun with their marriages and wanting a little side action or whatever it may be, going on. Yeah, and there's even more footage that they try not to say not to make a big deal of it. There's other people outside of the footage of the camera, that are friends and everybody, 15 more people or something like that there. Yeah, well, I mean, regardless, I mean, I'm in the crowd. I'm not about to be holding hands and hugging, in my bathing suits. It's just kind of weird. And with that said, also there's also footage of Deanna Rossini in her comments and in commentary when she's sitting down on a panel, kind of blasting her husband. I don't know. Maybe there. I know there's short takes when I caught the footage of it, but she's talking about divorce and one take. She's talking about their text messages not being very vague with each other, like as if we don't know each other, like hello, hello, that sort of thing. It's just pretty dead. Kind of giving indications that she's not happy in her marriage, and this is all before those pictures. So I mean, just everything present as what you view, what you give people. So, I mean, yes, if even if you think it's innocent or whatever it may be, you're in the public eye. Why would you even put yourself in that position? So, yeah, I do think where no one's making a big deal of that. I'm saying yes. Let me see. Are we making too big a deal? No, I don't think it's too big a deal. I think it's a big deal for sure. And I won't get too much more into that.
Yeah, it's amazing that James's know-it-all attitude has no bounds. He knows the type of marriages they have. Amazing the way James knows stuff like that from the inside. I mean, isn't that Diana Rossini's job to be an investigative reporter? To get
well, she said things about her own marriage. She said
pictures are deceiving. Pictures are very deceiving. I mean, James had made mention only one time quickly with Jerry Jones when he was 14 years old, standing in the back of a room. You evaluate Jerry Jones as part of the Ku Klux Klan because he's in the back of a room as a 14-year-old. I mean, come on, guys. I mean, I could tell you firsthand how deceiving pictures are. I could show you the greatest photo of myself presenting Manny Pacquiao the Fight of the Year award, my arms around him, and we're looking at one another, and the two of us have the greatest bond possible based on that picture. But I actually had no bond with Pacquiao, presenting him the award. If you want, I'll send you guys that in private. Remind me during the week. No bond with him at all. But for a split second, Pacquiao turned around. We looked at one another, smiling like we were buddy, and I could present that photo. That proves that me and Manny are really good, that we're really great. What do we see in that photo? People give one another a hug all the time.
Photos.
Colleagues give one another a hug all the time. They were hanging out at the pool over there, and it was open in public over there to see. I mean, we don't know. Possibly something's going on. I'm not naive enough to think that maybe that's not the case, but there's not enough evidence of it. As far as her putting things out about her husband being a dull guy, it sounds like she was joking around in those photos. She's still married to the guy. Couldn't she divorce him at any point? Don't tell me she'd be too shy to have a divorce. He doesn't own the sports team or something like that, where she wants to stay married to him because of his, generational wealth, the guy she's married to. I don't know what he's doing, but he's certainly not in the public eye as this ridiculously wealthy guy. And she has to be making a pretty good income herself. I think we look for reasons with photos and this and that to take things a little out of context. And the only thing I could say about the photo to be critical, you have to sometimes know a little better if you're out in public in this day and age who could be taking a snapshot of you or whatever. And the most innocent thing could be taken out of context. And because of social media, we're making too big, a deal out of this whole thing. And, there's no evidence that anything was anything outside of photos that we could twist and make into what we want.
I mean, I kind of agree with both of you. But at the same time, it's not just a photo, it is photos. Okay. They even have photos with them in the pool together. So it's just not the finger locking thing that they were getting, they were, joking about the whole situation, that whole thing. It's not about them hugging. All those photos all together portray a picture of what social media is going to put out there as what's going on with this. And that's this day and age. And even if they were in a public spot, they know they're going to be inundated with photographers taking these pictures. So either you are definitely innocent of what you're doing, as my, Vrabel was kind of alluding to, or you're not. And the only person at the end of the day that's got to make a big deal of it is their spouses. Those are the people that is concerns. Like, hey, babe, I saw you with, boy, what's going on with that? You know what I'm saying? Doug, that's something that we could just speculate all day. We can things can look like an egg and an omelet sandwich, you know what I'm saying? But really it's not, So
do you guys, I'm curious, I'm going to throw you guys like a knuckleball here. Did you guys ever watch the Andy Griffith Show?
Mm-hmm. I did.
You know the episodes, right? Remember when Barney comes with those party girls, they're working in the night, he brings them to the jailhouse and they get stuck with them. There was nothing going on with Andy and Barney and those girls, but the perception would be, oh yeah, Andy and Barney are all innocent.
And that,
guilty.
I remember the time. I remember that episode, and the town was like, and that was not even social media. That was back in the day.
Yeah.
So if you could, that's perception back in the day. And if you have added evidence with photographs, be like, yeah, I caught you in the pool with this guy, and I caught you finger locking with the dude. What's going on? All of a sudden it gets blown out of proportion. Everything gets blown out of proportion nowadays. So you're right.
Listen, I see old coworkers. I bump into them once in a while. They could be a woman, and I'll give them quick hug. Imagine someone takes a picture at that moment of the hug going on like this. It gets magnified to the point of being ridiculous.
Jack, what you're comparing to is totally different. They're at the poolside. It's not like you're meeting somebody you hadn't seen in a long time. They're hanging out at the poolside in bathing suits and hugging in bathing suits.
They're not they're not hugging in the bathing suits, are they? At the pool, not in the pool.
Well,
not in the pool, outside the pool. Outside the pool.
They were clothed when they were hugging and finger locking and all that goofy stuff. But they were in the pool with bathing suits on, sitting next to each other. I mean, again, you can make anything you want out of it.
I'm not saying that they're guilty of anything. What I am saying is it doesn't look good.
Well,
I'm saying that.
Wait. She was a beat reporter for the Tennessee Titans. So they have that relationship going back, for years. As her being a reporter, so there's that familiarity kind of like if she was a guy hanging out next to him in the pool, you wouldn't be saying anything. You would just laugh it off. The reporter and the coach having a moment and laughing and hanging out together because the reporter went back with the coach a long way, covering that coach. You'd look at it a bit differently, but because she's a woman hanging next to him, you're not looking at it as a reporter. You're looking at it as a woman.
Well, this whole thing started off, first of all, with a finger locking thing. Now, if they took a picture with a guy finger locking with him, again, that would be a little bit different. It would be a situation where
finger locking doesn't look good. I'll admit the finger locking. People don't finger lock normally. I wouldn't finger lock anyone.
Yeah, we're going everywhere with that.
Right?
Hilarious.
Exactly.
but Jack, in a sense of you, even with that innocent type, like you talk about, if you saw a coworker or somebody that you haven't seen in a while, friend or whatever that happens to be female, and you hugged just because hey, what's up? How you doing?
Yeah, like
and somebody took a picture,
and then,
but this is the thing. It doesn't depend on the public. It depended on your wife. So if your wife saw that picture, she wouldn't think nothing of it because she knows who you are.
Yeah.
That's the point. I'm talking. the public's going to make a big deal out of it because we ain't got nothing better to do than to talk about everybody else's relationships. So, I mean, that's just the way it goes in the media.
True.
But you know who you really need, just closing from my end to squash the whole thing? Grabel's wife to come out and say, no big deal. He's known Diana from back in the days of Tennessee Titans. Come on, people, get over it. And then I think you could kind of move on. But I kind of wonder what's going on with Mike Grable now, whether he has explaining to do and not, but whatever.
I think Vrabel's going to be Vrabel and just going about business as usual. He's not going to even utter. I mean, I'm not saying he's not going to utter a word about it, but I think he's not going to lose sweat off his brow over it. I'll tell you that right now.
Vrabel, you got some splaining to do.
No, I don't. We're trying to win the Super Bowl. That's what he's going to say. But yeah, right. Look, yeah, I'm done. I'm done with that too.
All right. Who is the greatest athlete living in complete obscurity? Obscurity.
Yeah, the key part of
that one to Jack, yeah.
The key part about that question is not who's the greatest living athlete necessarily. You can't name Michael Jordan as the answer to this question because he's not in obscurity. He gets interviewed now and then. So don't even consider Michael Jordan. Anyone who sends in, it has to be Michael Jordan, read the question. Look at the last word, obscurity. That means we don't even know whether they're alive or not. You know who inspired this question, actually? Denny McLain. The other day, I saw something with Denny McLain, wishing him a happy 82nd birthday, and I thought, Denny McLain? I didn't know he was alive. His name hasn't come up for years. His is a forgotten name completely. And that's what made me think of the question. There were a handful of great athletes who no one interviews anymore. I mean, we don't even hardly know that they're alive. I mean, maybe they're not in the shape to be interviewed. Don't get me wrong, okay? Maybe they are. But in any event, technically, they're still alive, and we don't even realize it. I mean, 3 of them come to mind. To a lesser degree, maybe Jack Nicholson, arguably more than arguably, the greatest golfer of all time. The consensus is Nicklaus is 1 and Tiger Woods is 2. But I haven't seen him be interviewed in a while, but I just don't know what's going on with Jack Nicholson right now. Maybe he's been interviewed recently and I've just missed it. And there are 2 more guys in the NBA. The big O, Oscar Robertson, age 87. I mean, this guy's one of the all-time greats. When you talk about the greatest NBA players of all time, I mean, you can easily put Oscar in the top 5 without anyone really ripping into you. They can't say you don't know what you're talking about if you put Oscar in the top 5. I'm not saying he belongs in the top 5 necessarily, but you can make an argument that Oscar Robertson is as every bit as good as Kobe Bryant and Magic Johnson, for example. You can make that argument. I'm not saying you're going to win the argument, but it's a reasonable argument. And then there's a guy who was never, when you talk about the greatest point guards of all time, what if we forget the guy who, maybe is the greatest of all time, like I said a moment ago, and that's Bob Cousy, age 97. We don't even realize Bob Cousy is still around. No, has anyone tried to interview him? Has anyone even mentioned his name? His name never even comes up. Bob Cousy was the man when it came to the NBA. For years and years, he was the biggest star in the NBA. Was he better than the big O, Oscar Robertson? That's debatable. You'd have to give the big O a little edge there, but just a little edge, not a big edge. Bob Cousy was a phenomenal point guard. I don't mean he was just a great point guard. He was better than great. He was phenomenal, Bob Cousy. I mean, there wasn't a thing the guy couldn't do. He was ahead of his time. He was making no-look passes before, anyone even thought of the term or whatever. and he was the face, not only the face of the NBA of sports. You put him up there with guys like Joe DiMaggio, as big names, as sports personalities at the time. And now at age 97, we talk about the greatest players of all time in the NBA, and the guy who some people rated a lot of decades ago as number one, in the 1950s and even to a degree in the 1960s, Bob Cousy, no one talks about him. We don't even know the guy's alive, and he is alive. So that would be my choice, Bob Cousy.
That's actually a pretty great choice. Man, just for you viewers out there, I looked at this question differently. I'm not going to answer the previous answer I had because I thought, maybe someone living in complete obscurity, I thought it could be living or dead because they actually still lived in obscurity. But I don't really for anybody that's still living in obscurity right now, I don't have an answer. I just simply don't know. I don't know enough about.
The big Oscar Robertson. Oscar Robertson.
Yeah, I disagree with that. I don't think he's living in obscurity because he pops up here and there in the NBA.
He's at some of the games. He's at some games.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he does show up. Yeah, sure.
And Tiger Woods obviously is not in obscurity.
Jack Nicklaus, Richard sending Jack Nicklaus.
Now, I do like the idea of that, right? Yeah. And the oldest. One thing I will give him is like being the oldest guy to win a PGA or a championship at 46. At 46, yeah. So that's I mean, probably arguably like you said, the greatest golfer ever in history. And you don't hear anything about him at all. No one, he doesn't come out at all. So younger people particularly, probably if they don't know who he is, they wouldn't know because he doesn't do interviews and he's not out there.
Super person Jack Nicklaus, when he was at the peak of his career, he would win these golf tournaments. He would rush back to see his kids play sports, and he'd be standing in the last row of the bleachers with, the other parents there just watching. Talk about a major star, and he rushed back. And you look at, his priorities there. Super individual. He could be a bit surly in a way, but obscurity is the key. It's not the greatest athlete, obscurity. And Bob Cousy's still alive there at 97. That's what I mean.
Well, I mean, he's 97. Okay. See, when I looked at this question, I looked at it as somebody that's in between being, almost on the edge of not being with us anymore because they're older. They're 80 in her 80. Like Jack Nicklaus is 88. Jack Nicklaus is 86. Bob Cousy, 97 years old. Of course, they're not going to be obscure. They're old. They're not going to be going any damn where. You know what I'm saying? So you're not going to see them as much. I'm thinking about people that are like in between 70 and maybe 50, somewhere around there where you don't understand, you're like, dang, where has he or she been at for all this time? I remember when he or she could do this, and then I haven't seen that person in a whole bunch of times. And you're right, you think they weren't alive. There's many times when I've been on a podcast where it's like, dang, they're still alive.
No, but it's more than that, Brian. It's more than that. You could take when Willie Mays was old before he passed, Bill Russell, Jim Brown, people would talk about them. No one is talking about Bob Cousy. You talk about the greatest players in the NBA. His name rarely comes into the discussion. And he's unquestionably one of the greatest ever because I know, being an older guy, there was a point in time before all these legends came on the scene. I remember Bob Cousy was an absolute superstar. As a phys ed major, I take a basketball class. What would the professor be talking about Bob Cousy's two-hand set shot? He'd be describing, we'd have to follow patterns of what Bob Cousy was doing. He was the role model. Look, being white played into the equation. Let's be honest about it. We see it with the logo with Jerry West being white. wouldn't have been fashionable back in the day to have a black man as the logo, of the NBA. But even with that said, all these decades later, where the face of the NBA certainly has changed tremendously in all ways, shape, and forms, Bob Cousy shouldn't be forgotten the way he is. I mean, LeBron did bring him up one point about a year ago, and LeBron laughed like he was putting down the old timers, LeBron, in a gentle way. And then he laughed. He said, "Yeah, Kuz had game," and he laughed. Yeah, Kuz had game.
He
But
did have
Kuz
game. He really did have game. Yeah, for
In
sure.
his era,
He really
had
did.
game. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No, I mean, not just the era. Cousy grew up in black neighborhoods, and so a lot of the game that he had was because he like Larry Bird. Larry Bird didn't want to go play against the white. He wanted to play the black dudes. He wanted to go and beat them because he knew that's the way he played. That's where the competition for him was, and so Cousy was the same. It was exactly the same, and a lot of his game wasn't allowed to translate into the game because they didn't allow you to like dunk and all this other kind of stuff. But he had great moves and everything. I mean, he was just awesome. He's far beyond my reach in regards to watching live, but to be able to watch archives of a player like this, he was incredible. He was incredible. He had game, like you said, and I think LeBron James he respects the game. So maybe he was laughing, but I think he was also giving credit and shine to Bob Cousy.
I'm not sure about that with LeBron because LeBron was saying Giannis would have averaged 70 points back whenever. What gets
he would have.
But no. What gets me about these old timers like Bob Cousy. Bob Cousy retired in something, I believe, around the end of 1963. Okay, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar entered the NBA, I believe. What was it? Was it 1970? I'm close. I could be a year off. That's only 7 years apart. And is there anyone who thinks Kareem Abdul-Jabbar wouldn't be great if he was playing today? I mean, who wouldn't? I mean, if if you were around today, wouldn't Kareem Abdul-Jabbar be just as good?
I don't know. I think his position would die out. Kareem he shot 1 3, made 1 3 in his whole career. These players now, centers shoot threes, and so your game is totally different. Maybe
he was versatile. He played like Wemby, but wasn't allowed to. That was the thing. They made him play traditional center. He could dribble really well, Kareem. He could bring the ball down the court. Kareem actually could have. They could have trained him, and he could have played some guard. Believe it or not, that's how good he was.
No, I agree. I believe he was really good, and I think I'm just thinking, would he have been as dominant? Would he be the league leading scorer? I mean, all-time league leading scorer in this era of basketball versus? I mean, don't get me wrong, they played a tougher game back then, and his skyhook was just unstoppable. Nobody could stop that. So I don't know. I just think the game is different, and maybe had he been a 3-point shooter, I would give that credit to that. I just think that his game wouldn't have translated to this game now if he didn't shoot threes. And so, because that's just the way they play now. But I mean, I think he'd still be dominant. I just think that, guys, and maybe they're going back into that era a little bit to where they're shooting more twos now. Because their teams are playing defense.
You have analytics, and it shows if you miss X amount, you might be better off taking threes. But Brian,
yeah.
But I would say this, and this is greatness is achieved by nicknames too. So when you're out in a basketball court as a young gent, and Kareem didn't invent the skyhook, but he kind of perfected it. So when you do a skyhook in basketball, when you're on the court, didn't you yell Kareem when you did a sky? Kareem! That's just like that's like Michael Jordan in air, the air, his airness. LeBron, the king. When you're associated with greatness, you have a greatness nickname on there. So I mean, yeah, Obscurity probably wouldn't be for some of those players, they wouldn't be obscure because they have a nickname after them. So, it's like Moss. You got Moss. Randy Moss is a great athlete. Never won a Super Bowl, but he's a great athlete. And, and everybody go out there, he just got mossed, and it still works today. The dude's been retired from the NFL for how many years, and it's still used today. So my pick, though, getting back on the subject, my pick, though, is, and I know we were using professional athletes in major sports like NBA, but Gail Devers from the Olympics. That girl was awesome in the Olympics.
Yeah.
Man, she was winning golds everywhere. Where's she at now? Nobody. I have not heard from Gail Devers in at least 14, 15 years. Where's she at?
What about Edwin Moses? Edwin Moses
would be another. Edwin Moses. I don't know as much as Gail Devers. I don't think you hear Gail. Edwin Moses. Yeah. I hear in certain circles, but I don't hear Gail Devers at all.
What about Michelle Chung?
Michelle Chung. Yeah. Her name comes up like in the Olympics when they have figure skating of any sort. But I've seen track and field, and I haven't seen anybody. I've never heard anybody refer to Gail Devers in track and field. When they're Olympics, I have not heard anybody say that. Carl Lewis. What's the other woman's name?
Jackie Joyner-Kersee.
Jackie Joyner-Kersee.
Flojo's not alive.
Yeah, well, she's not alive now, but I'm just saying I've heard those through Olympics. I have not heard Gail Devers at all being mentioned in the Olympics.
Really good answer. Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, I just went away from the professional aspect of the sports.
Well, the coaching wise, Marv Levy's alive, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, does his name come up? As far as coaches go.
I mean, whenever Buffalo gets into a position in the playoffs, I hear his name. Maybe. So, I mean, yeah, I wouldn't consider him obscure, so that's for sure. But anyway, on that note, great questions as always, Jack. Thank you so much for that. Join us again, me, B.A., James Martin, and Jack Hertz next Saturday at 8 a.m. for the Sports Debate Podcast. Catch us tomorrow at 8 a.m. for the Sunday Morning Sports Podcast. We will see you then. Have a great day.